Peace and blessings to you all. This is a new day for you, and I am Dr. Raul Richardson, so very thrilled and excited, and you already know, quite delighted to have joining us today my very, very special guest. You all have been anticipating his arrival for several weeks now, but Congressman Bennie Thompson from the great state of Mississippi is joining us here on A New Day for You. Congressman Thompson, thank you so very much for joining us today on A New Day for You. Great to have you.
Thank
so
you
good
so
to see
much.
you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richardson. I've been looking forward to it, and I'm glad we were able to coordinate our schedules to make this happen.
Well, you've been a very busy gentleman, from the raising of the debt limit to the investigations on Congressional Hill. Clearly, your role and leadership, guidance, and vision are a benefit to our entire nation, and we're so grateful that we're finally able to get you on the air.
Well, as I said, I've been looking forward to it, and you know, there are a lot of things that are happening in this country, continue to happen, and the more we can enlighten everybody, the better off as a country we are.
Oh, no doubt. I agree. And I want to afford you the opportunity, and I trust and pray. Well, first, we got to give a shout outs to them Wyndham girls, my dear friend, Miss Gwendolyn Darty, for providing us the introduction, and my other friend, Monique, who was so instrumental in getting you to Mobile for our celebration luncheon. Much love, peace, and blessings to both of them. And finally, to your staff, who have been very gracious, very kind, and very supportive, particularly Miss Stephanie Booker, who has been patiently holding my hand through this whole process. So tell us, Congressman Thompson, you're a significant representative in our office here in Washington, D.C., and of course, the great state of Mississippi, impacting even the Gulf states as well. Tell us a little bit about why our loyal listeners need to know who is Congressman Bennie Thompson, and what are some of the historic events that kind of precipitated you to be in this role now?
Well, thank you so much again, Dr. Richardson, for having me on your program. Bennie Thompson lives in a small town of 500 people. He's lived in that town his whole life. He just happened to have been born, if you please, on the wrong side of the track. Now, that wrong side of the track meant that I grew up not having paved streets. I grew up not having sidewalks. I grew up not having a playground. I grew up thinking that for whatever reason, this would be my lot in life as somebody in this little town. But along the way, I started meeting people who started talking about change. Now that change came slowly because they started saying that that one-room schoolhouse you started off in is only for the Black kids and not everybody. Because on the other side of the track is a brick schoolhouse with a gymnasium, a cafeteria, a library, and all. And the only reason you have this little building is because at the time you were considered colored. And so, Doc, you're the sum total of your experiences. So I've spent my entire political career defying the odds of making a difference. So that one-room schoolhouse to the halls of Congress. In between that, as you know, I never had a new textbook. All my textbooks were books passed down from the white school to the Black school. I never had an opportunity to envision a science lab my entire public school career. And so my challenges have been significant, but I didn't give up. And so I had a mother who taught my daddy how to write his name. I had a daddy who died while I was 10th grade, never having registered to vote, because in 1965 in Mississippi, you put your life on the line just trying to be a registered voter. So again, that's that's kind of the background of who I am. But I went to Tougaloo College. Tougaloo College is a small liberal arts college, the only integrated college in the state of Mississippi at the time I went. But on that campus was a hotbed of civil rights. I saw and met Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I met Stokely Carmichael, Ralph Bunche, everybody you can name, Harry Belafonte, right on that little campus, because that was a safe haven for civil rights. So I got my upbringing talking to people who wanted to make a difference. Ms. Fannie Lou Hamer was a constant speaker on our campus. Dr. Aaron Henry, you name it, they all came to Tougaloo. So it was my good fortune of having gone there that created the opportunity for me to get engaged in the civil rights demonstrations, in the different marches that occurred. It was always the Tougaloo students that were out front. And if you remember, your history will reflect that so much of the civil rights struggle included the young people who were marching, who at the sit-in demonstrations, at the lunch counters. And so a lot of us who were locals became integrated into that process to the point that after I graduated from Tougaloo, I decided to stay in Mississippi. And that my first year out, I told my mama that, I had been in the Delta working on Mrs. Hamer's campaign for Congress, which I now represent the office that Mrs. Hamer tried to get back in 1968.
Wow.
And so that's looking back. But then mama said, well, I don't know why you going to the Delta to help people register and vote when people right here in our own hometown don't vote. It was a shock to me. And so coming full circle, municipal elections came up. We put the groups together, and 3 of us ran for a 5-person council, and all 3 of us won.
Wow.
Now, and I was 21 years of age at that point. And so here I am, the youngest person on the council, still with a white mayor, white city clerk and everything, but I'm homegrown, educated, still belonging to church, just recently married. Everything that you would think that would be helpful to a city council. And on the first meeting, the city clerk said, let me get something straight. I'm not gonna do anything you Negroes want. Now you understand, Doc?
Wow.
I'm there what I think is the good of the order. I want streets on my side of the track to be paved. I want to find a place where the children can play and be safe other than in the street. I want to make sure that the water lines, the sewer lines are equal in size on this side of the track like they are on the other side of the track. Not asking for anything special. And so it as things have it, for that 4 years, we didn't accomplish a whole lot. I'll be honest with you, because it was fighting. But we should have known that change comes grudgingly by the system.
Yes.
When we first won the office, we had to go to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans to take office. They refused to give us our certification. They being the state of Mississippi. We had to force the state to give us our certification. I'm talking about a town of 500 people. You say, well, what's so important about 500 people? Well, we were the first municipality in the state of Mississippi where a majority of the city council would be controlled by Black people. And the sentiment was, if we don't stop it now, they are going to take over other towns. And you know who they is. But look, everybody on the city council was born and raised in this town. You know, it wasn't like somebody from out of town came. So look, for 4 years, it was just horrible. So we decided that in the best interest of the community, that we'd run a full slate. And they asked me to run for mayor. I did. Fortunately, I won and our whole slate won. And I became at 24, a very young mayor, the first Black mayor of a biracial town in the state of Mississippi.
That is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable, man. Kudos to you.
But now, even though I won, we had to go back to court to get the courts to put us in office. So I can tell you, on the day that we went to court, this particular judge got served a removal order because we removed the case from state court to federal court because the Voting Rights Act was still the order of the day. The judge looked at the people on the other side and said, well, they have taken it out of my hands. I can't do anything for you all now. And that was supposed to be justice. And the judge from the bench said, I can't do anything for you all now because they've taken it out of my hands. Unbelievable. So I became mayor, but there were people like John Lewis, Julian Bond, Andy Young, who came.
Icons.
Oh, yeah, who came to Mississippi and helped us win. Because you got to understand, the system of oppression is deep and wide all throughout this country. So the notion is that, is he qualified to be mayor? Is he this? So wait, I have a college degree. There's nobody on the council who's ever been mayor who's even been a high school graduate. But here you got a college graduate wanting to be mayor who's from here. And so we had to go through all those layers of questions. But in the first term, to be honest with you, we built a new city hall. We acquired, with the help of friends all around the country. City of New York gave us a fire truck. City of Detroit gave us a garbage truck. City of Marshalltown, Iowa, gave us an ambulance. So we had none of those things in the past because, you know, it was the homes across the track that caught fire because of the construction. It was the people who lived across the track who's got sick the most and couldn't get to a hospital. And so we did all those things to make better. But the one thing that made the community on the other side of the track so upset is we equalized the taxing structure in the city. Because what we found is, just like in most communities, the minority community was paying a disproportionate tax. So if you own the big house on the hill, your valuation of your house was lower than that person who's staying in the 1-bedroom shotgun house across the track.
Get out of town.
Yes, sir, Doc. Mississippi law said taxes had to be equal. So what I wanted to do was equalize the taxes, which is what the law required. I could not find a real estate appraiser in the state of Mississippi to appraise the taxes in this town because they couldn't take the pressure. Listen, so I had to go to Boston, Massachusetts.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, sir. I had to go to Boston, Massachusetts to get a Black real estate appraiser who came to Mississippi, brother named Rutledge Waker, good person, good real estate person. And he had to come here, and we did it. And so ultimately we followed the state law. And so the white community sued us because we wanted everybody to pay their fair share of taxes. And ultimately we won out and we moved forward. But you know, even in this day and time, if you want to make enemies, you just try to change something. Because everybody's, oh, we've always had it this way. Well, but that's been the wrong way because it's been disproportionately applied. And so what we were able to do with the help of a working community, we were able to get it done. But in that process, we sued the state of Mississippi because of how it discriminated in higher education. Because the Black colleges wasn't getting the resources, but the white colleges were getting everything. And so while I was mayor, we also sued the state for that. We sued the state to put Black people on the Supreme Court. We sued the state for redistricting so that we could put people in county government. So, you know, you have to be a change agent if you want to get something done. But now being a change agent, Doc, also means you don't get invited to the chamber event. Yes. You don't get invited to the Rotary event because you are different. So, but I get my gratification when the man or woman on the street says job well done. So that's my chamber dinner.
Well, let me tell you this. You've dropped tremendous number of nuggets on us, but I want to go back to your mother, because you mentioned about the role she played in your family as it relates to your dad. You mentioned the role she played in terms of how she inspired and motivated you. And we can't go too far in this conversation without acknowledging the influence, the power, the providence, and the benefit of the Most High God of allowing powerful Black women in our lives. You've quoted about Fannie Lou Hamer. You've talked about your influences as it relates to Tougaloo. And I just want to give credit where credit is due, because your mama sounds like a remarkable woman. And I'm grateful for the influence, the power, the presence that she made in your life that now allows me to be a beneficiary. As a fat Black guy from New York City, now living in Mobile, Alabama, to be able to see the value and the importance of being an activist in our community, to represent those things that are not right and then speak truth to power. And that is so much a part of who you are. And listen, before I even get too far along, for those of you just joining us, this is a new day for you. And I am Dr. Raul Richardson, and we are chatting it up with Congressman Bennie Thompson from the great state of Mississippi, who's sharing insights with us about his experiences that have led him to the very seat of power in this great nation. So, Congressman Thompson, you've talked about your history. We haven't even gotten to the identity or what the future looks like. Most recently, the Supreme Court ruled that affirmative action is no longer an important element as it relates to admission to colleges. We know that you were involved in the raising of the debt limit. We know that you've been involved with the congressional hearing as related to the January 6th insurrection. We know that you are a vital proponent of this whole conversation about the investigation into those elements of our government that represent corruption and a failure to serve the people. So what would you like to say about the current state of affairs as it relates to your identity? And what would you like to share with our loyal listeners on Inspire You on Air about the future as it relates to our country and our need to be able to do the things that are necessary to benefit the least of us?
Well, you know, there's a Swahili slogan that says "Alua Continua." That means the struggle
continues. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the struggle continues. And so even though we move forward, we're nowhere near where we need to be. And so as we inch forward, there are forces that try to push us back, but we can't give up. So that Supreme Court decision about affirmative action, I absolutely disagree with it. If it were not for affirmative action based on race, creed, or color, people like you and I, and a lot of folk listening to this audience wouldn't be who we are. And so we have to affirmatively resist when these things come. So my question is, if we're not going to consider race for admission to certain colleges and universities, what are we going to consider? So that's for smart folk to come up with a way of figuring out how we going to make sure that no one is marginalized in this country because they happen to be black or brown or yellow. And so we have to move forward and not allow the Clarence Thomases of the world who have on a regular disavow who they are. And he's a recipient of affirmative action.
Absolutely.
So you can't, under normal circumstances, be a beneficiary of something, and once you get there, disavow it. And so for what we have in this country, for this day and time, is a pivotal moment for us to consider. We have to look at the redistricting case that just came out of Alabama, where that same Supreme Court told the state of Alabama, you can't discriminate against Black people by carving out a district and not giving them the chance to vote for the candidate of their choice. Or to look at Louisiana, where a similar decision came about, a debt ceiling. You can't just decide that you're going to help your rich people in helping manage the debt ceiling and help the homeless, the hungry, and the dispossessed. You're going to punish them. The great equalizer, Dr. Richardson, in this country is the right to vote. That means on that given day, which is called election day, the billionaire and the homeless person, they're equal. Each one possess one vote. And so that's how we pick our leaders in this country, at the ballot box. And so we have to preserve that. But we also understand that democracy is a precious commodity. We have to cherish it and we have to protect it. What you saw on January 6th is a prime example of what happens when we don't protect and cherish our democracies. The crazies take over. And these are folk who said they were patriots and they're breaking into the United States Capitol. These are people who say they backed the blue and they were assaulting the police. And then they want to believe, oh, we didn't do anything wrong. What we saw was the equivalent of a Capitol tour. Give me a break. But you and I also know if that crowd had looked like you and I,
oh my goodness,
it would have been blood running down the streets. So there is some challenges we have, but I don't know a better form of government than what we have now. And that's why we have to make sure that we have to protect it. It's not perfect, but I don't know any other system better than what we have right now. And I'm a Black person, you're a Black person. And I've been discriminated against, you have, but I'm working for a more perfect union. And it's in that pursuit of that more perfect union that even when things are bad, we don't give up. And that's why Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, John Lewis, all our heroes, Fannie Lou Hamer, she wrote, they gave their life's blood so that we can have a better way. And so we're not perfect, but we're going to fight like hell to make sure that we get there. And so I appreciate your program by kind of enlightening the listening audience on what goes on. Every day I'm in office, I get reminded that you might represent 750,000 people. You might have been in Congress a long time, but you still Black. And I get reminded of that by the system. You know, I'll give you a good example, Doc, and I don't mean to go too long, but I'm the only person who voted for broadband and internet access to everybody in my state. Just like
What?
Terry, yes, just like
Get out
Terry
of here.
Sewell is the only one in Alabama. And now I got all these folk want me to write letters of support for their broadband application. And I'm saying, well, you and I need to talk. Well, can't you just write us a letter? No, you're going to have to come and sit down and convince me that you're worthy of my letter. But you understand, they would rather send me an email or call me on the phone, a total stranger, and want me to help their business model rather than come and sit and face me. If I were a white congressperson, first thing you would have done would be to come see me. Because I'm Black, you don't want to come and sit and let's talk. Because I want to ask them about their minority business program. I want to
Yes.
ask about what the staffing of the current business is. So whether they hire people of color throughout the entire organization. So it's all those kind of things that I have to go with that continues to be a challenge, you know? And so it's important that I not let my position change who I am. Because I could easily say, oh yeah, I'd love to write this letter for your company. But if your company is not treating the people I represent fair, then I'm not going to do it. And so that kind of means that, I get treated differently, but it also tells me I'm doing the right thing because I remember who elected me.
Amen.
Remembering who elected me, it's easy to do the right thing.
Thank you for doing the right thing. Good trouble. Good trouble.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, man, we don't have much time left, and I'm so grateful for you accepting our invitation to talk to our loyal listeners at Inspire You on Air, the new beat of the Bay. And I am particularly grateful for having the opportunity to allow the Most High God to allow our paths to intersect and for you to share knowledge, wisdom, insights. And I trust and believe, I am absolutely certain, not only I am inspired and influenced by all that you've done and all that you continue to do, but trust and believe that there are countless other people that are equally inspired, motivated, and ultimately galvanized to mobilize and move forward for those things that are important, because all politics are local. But before we get off the air, and again, I want to give shout outs to Ms. Gwendolyn Darty and the Wyndham Girls and Stephanie Booker, and much love, peace, and blessings to you, kind sir. What, if anything, would you like to share with our loyal listeners about something that represents a future about destiny, or what our future looks like, or what things should we be paying attention to that we can look to actually get involved with that's of significance and importance from your perspective, Congressman?
Well, thank you so much, Doctor. First of all, we pick our leaders in this country. We don't anoint them. It doesn't matter where you're born. We pick our leaders. But in order to pick our leaders, you have to be a registered voter.
Amen.
You can't complain about what's not happening if you're not a registered voter and voting at every opportunity. So that's the greatness that our founding fathers put a vehicle together. It's unfortunate that there were people who were denied that right to vote, who gave up their lives, their future, and everything, so that you and I might have that right to vote.